The scientists at the Norfolk Space Research Corporation are showing a top secret new gadget to a visiting congressman. He's skeptical about what it does.
What's it supposed to do? Force us in Congress to allocate you more money?
He seems familiar, but I can't put my finger on it.
One of the most pressing problems in our program to establish space stations is the lack of room, thank you, in our existing vehicles to transport equipment. In other words, the thing that's slowing down our space program is the lack of space. That's the little joke we have here at Norfolk.
Sorry, the congressman only laughs at his own jokes. If you followed the scientist, what he said was, we can't build a space station because we don't have room to carry all the parts. This machine fixes that problem.
Which brings us to the transsolar nuclear molecular compressor.
Looks like a refrigerator to me.
That is a refrigerator, Congressman. This is the molecular compressor.
We aren't leaving any doubt as to what our writers thought of certain members of Congress. Which members, I'm not sure, but I suspect there were a lot more of them than anybody guessed. In 1966, the country was still reeling from the Kennedy assassination. Lyndon Johnson had been president for just over a year and had decided to escalate things in Vietnam. The Civil Rights Act had only just passed Congress and become the law of the land, and the pushback by Southern whites was frankly enough to turn a decent person's stomach. We still remembered the Cuban Missile Crisis and all the rest of the Cold War and the nuclear arms race. Not only did we have the threat of global holocaust hanging over our heads, now the government was sending our young men to the other side of the world to fight and die in a war that nobody understood. And to top it off, the government wanted to bust those people's kids into our schools. And we had learned the hard way just how vulnerable our elected officials were. Looking back, I don't envy any of those officials. I can't begin to grasp how hard the job must have been when you had to deal with all that, plus the usual business of keeping the country funded, making laws, and trying to figure out what the people wanted. Sometimes it was a matter of figuring out what the people wanted and then finding ways to explain to them that no, putting beer flavor into the country's tap water might not necessarily appeal to everybody.
As you can see, an object, any object, can be reduced to less than 1/20th of its original size by the molecular compressor without damage.
And there you go. It makes mini refrigerators perfect for dorm rooms and other small spaces. We'll make a fortune.
What good is a refrigerator that size for? Olives?
I just told you, meathead, we're going to make a fortune. The scientist patiently explains, a lot more patiently than I would have, that we can now shrink all the equipment we need for space exploration to this size, transport it all where it needs to go, and restore it to size, thus saving dozens of space missions and many monies.
Computers, flight equipment, television components.
How about a 1928 Porter? Can that be reduced?
Show me that sign on this place again. Who authorized him? Wait, I think I know. Remember I said that congressman looked familiar? That's Manzini's Uncle Louis from the previous episode. He's gone from crime boss to congressman. I don't know, that seems like a step down to me.
Ah, beautiful machine. This better work as well as the original one did, Golf. Or else it's back to that $1,000 a week job over at Norfolk Research.
It went by kind of quick, but no, that's not the machine we were just looking at. Manzini hired this guy away from Norfolk and had him build him one. Now, we know there's a congressman involved, and this is pretty serious stuff, so it's going to be classified pretty high. That means if they get caught, Goff and Manzini are both looking at hard prison time for espionage. Hey, you know what? That'd be a great way to write Manzini out. Too bad that's not what we're doing. In fact, the congressman will never be seen or heard from again.
Captain, how is the transsolar nuclear molecular compressor going to help you to relieve Mr. Crabtree of his 1928 Porter?
Well, it's simple, really. That car shrunk is worthless to Crabtree. Worthless, in fact, to anyone who doesn't possess a,
Transsolar nuclear molecular compressor.
whatever. In fact, useless to anyone except unscrupulous little old me.
And you assume that because you did this to his car without his permission, he'll just turn around and sell it to you. Manzini is not a good character, even for a sitcom. As we've already seen, the best episodes don't have him in them.
Dave, you're not hungry. What are you looking for?
Oh, here it is. I found it.
Oh, you want some tea? Here, put it in the cup. I just washed it.
Oh, I don't want to put it in the cup.
Where do you keep the sugar? In the other pocket?
No, that's where I keep the lemon.
Oh, I shouldn't have asked that.
We already know they've been married for 8 years, so yeah, she should have learned by now. It only took my wife 3 years. It's for his mom, obviously. Put the tea bag in her radiator and run her for a while to get the water hot, and I cannot believe I'm describing this as if it sounds even marginally sane. And here comes Manzini. As many times as he's trespassed on Dave's property, I don't know why Dave doesn't get a restraining order and have him thrown in jail the next time he shows up. Maybe Dave isn't that kind of lawyer, so he doesn't know he can.
Crabgrass, a matter of the utmost urgency has arisen. Can I speak to you for just a second?
You just did.
Now listen, I'm sincere when I say this is a matter of the utmost urgency.
That right there is enough to have him arrested. He was ordered away twice and then forced his way in the door. Dave has an early 60s wife and 2 early 60s children to protect, and Manzini can easily be considered a threat. Dave does nothing. In fact, he pretty much always acquiesces. That's one of the big reasons I can't buy Manzini as a part of this story. A 1965 lawyer would have had his fast-talking butt in jail before he could accidentally bite his mustache. Dave acts as though there's nothing he can do. I can't suspend my disbelief under those circumstances. While Manzini is repeating his same old crap, the lights suddenly dim for a moment, then brighten again. Manzini basically says, "My work here is done," and scampers out. He says, "You could have avoided a major disaster if you had just sold me the car." That is a direct threat, which can also send him to jail. As usual, Dave just stands there. As far as we know, Dave doesn't drink and doesn't do drugs, so he's probably not hallucinating. He just wishes he was.
Mother?
Manzini did it. Manzini did it. Manzini did it.
Yeah, now tell him something he doesn't already know, like what to do now. He confronts Manzini, but Manzini just says, "You've got nothing on me, so sell me the car. I win." I repeat, he's got him on trespassing, making threats, and being a nuisance. How is it that I seem to be a better lawyer than Dave when the only legal stuff I know I learned by watching Perry Mason and Matlock?
Holy moly!
Tell me how you made my car small, or I'll...
You'll what?
Okay, Manzini, you win the first round. But I'm going to find out how you did this lousy thing. Believe me, you haven't heard the last of me.
If there's anything I hate, it's a good sport.
Here, this is yours.
If he keeps it that sharp, he deserves to be called Three-Finger Bernie. At home, everybody assumes he traded the full-size Porter for a toy for the kids. Dave can't think of a better story, so he decides just go with it.
Bobby Kripstad gave him one just like that one, and it talks.
What does it say?
You press the little horn button and it says, "Hello, I'm your talking car. Fill me up with gas and watch me go." I think it's a boy car.
Oh.
Hey, what does this car say, Dad?
It says it's after 12 o'clock and good night.
Isn't that a crummy thing for a car to say? The crummiest.
Incidentally, major props to both our child actors. They get some of the worst lines in the whole series, but they carry them out as naturally as possible and make their characters believable. We already know Cindy Eilbacher kept acting, and we saw her in an episode of Wonder Woman, among other things. She did her last acting job in 1987, whereupon she pretty well dropped out of sight. As far as I've been able to find out, nobody among the general public or the press knows where she is or what she's doing now. Randy Whipple kept acting until he turned 18, which makes you wonder whose decision it was. He quit the acting circuit, went to college, got married, and went off to get a life. He wound up in Oregon, where he was a newscaster for a time, and at last report he was doing real estate. Oh yes, one other little tidbit about their acting abilities. They're supposed to be 2 years apart, but in reality they were only 2 months apart. Her birthday is July 7th, only a day after my wife's, which is a totally meaningless fact that you can dazzle your friends with.
Comfortable, Mom? We ought to be downtown in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Maybe it's a good idea not to talk to her while other people are around. They'll either think you're crazy or you're doing a plug for that other new show on this same network called Get Smart. Except by this time, everybody knew Maxwell Smart talks to a shoe, not a car. Duh.
Listen, Mom, when Manzini shrunk you down last night, what did you use to do it?
I don't know. It was some funny-looking gadget with thingamajigs on it.
That sounds like my wife when she wants me to fix a computer problem for her. We'll jump from there to Dave coming home without the car. I think it's supposed to be the next day, but there's nothing to indicate it. The transition is kind of harsh.
Bye, Bob. Oh, no. Mom, what did Manzini do to you this time?
It never occurs to Dave to think of the simplest explanation. At the same time, his mother is a talking car, so very little in his life is simple.
Hello, I am your talking car. Fill me up with gas.
Hi, Daddy. Boy, Benton never heard a car talk before, huh, Daddy?
Randy, what did you do with my car?
Your little car.
Yes, what'd you do with it?
I traded it to Bobby Krebs.
Guess what? It just traded itself back. Randy's bummed because he really likes the talking car. You can't blame him, it's also way cooler looking. But until somebody figures out how to transfer Mom's consciousness into it, no deal. Take the cool car back because it's pretty obvious this one does not want to be traded. The only way out of this is to get that machine of Manzini's. Mom has a plan. Manzini won't talk to Dave unless he's ready to sell the car, but she can slip past the gate. Of course, he can't hear anything until he restores it to full size. And now Mom knows how to restore things too. It's Professor Goff on the phone.
This is me, Captain Goff.
I thought I told you not to bother me.
Well, it's about the molecular compressor. You see, after a series of tests, we discovered
And how did you get my home phone number?
it's in the telephone book.
Oh, yeah.
About the compressor, Captain. There's something terribly important that you should know.
Later, Goff. I'm busy myself putting the compressor through its paces.
But
As they say in showbiz, don't call me, I'll call you.
He's an academic, all right, just can't get around to the point. And since Manzini has the attention span of a goldfish, he won't get a chance. But Mom knows how the machine works, so it's Dave's turn to come up with a plan.
Manzini?
Yes, Dwayne?
Dave. Listen, Captain, my car's useless to me as it is. I mean, all I could use it for is a toy for my children. $1,500 is a little steep for a toy.
Yes, yes.
Well, I'll sell you the car.
What?
He's lying, Mom. And guess what? He learned it by watching you. The idea is to get them both inside and near that machine, which isn't hard to accomplish.
I'm going to have this document preserved under glass like the Declaration of Independence. Here you are, just to fix your Alfred Hitchcock right there.
John Hancock.
Whatever.
The last time there was something to sign, he had at least a dozen regular pens in his coat. He prefers the quill, but he doesn't carry it in his coat because the point keeps poking his navel.
Oh, excuse me,
It's
Manzini.
all right. What are you trying to pull? Come here, Sweats. Let me go, Manzini.
Whatever they did to the machine, all their wrestling isn't going to accomplish anything because ultimately the machine explodes.
Oh, no. Look what you've done.
Good. I hope it cost you plenty.
Mere money. What is that compared to the knowledge that our porter shall forever remain minuscule?
That's not our porter, Manzini. It's minuscule.
There's another one of those at Norfolk. You could see if they'll let you use it.
Boy, talk about your compact cars. Mom, we gotta do something.
We'll think of something. scientist will build another compressor someday.
Yeah. Then again, maybe he won't.
He already did, except you don't know it, and Manzini apparently forgot.
Could we play with your car a little bit?
Okay, Randy, but be careful with it, will you?
Oh, boy!
Ah, Drew!
Dave!
I've decided that after all the trouble I caused you, the least I can do is reimburse you for your losses. Now, what did I say, $1,500?
He still wants to buy it, which probably means he does remember that other machine. But before they can get very far, Dave has another visitor.
Captain, just after I left your house, I suddenly remembered.
Not another word or you're fired. What?
Compressor only lasts for 24 hours.
Which means the car won't stay little. In fact,
Daddy, the car!
What's the matter with the car, Cindy?
I was playing in the kitchen and...
Dave, would you like to try to explain this?
Yeah.
it was Manzini's idea. Have him explain it. I'm sure he'll be glad. Manzini? Manzini? Where'd he go?